Okay, it's my job now to invite Mark and Emma to join me on stage for what will be a 6-minute question and answer session.
Hello. Yes. Hi, Jasper de Rede, Schlumberger. I have a question for Emma. You were mentioning the no-blame culture you have introduced and the 10 life-saving rules, or 11, however much you want to call them. But do you also then apply accountability to people? Are you strictly in the no-blame, okay, you didn't wear a seatbelt, there's no blame? Or is there a clear accountability, and does it potentially lead to dismissal, firing of this person?
Absolutely. It's very much fair blame. There was a lag between going live, building trust, and going to fair blame. But a choice not to comply is a choice not to work for Network Rail. We look at 15% roughly of all safety investigations still leading to disciplinary action. But we've started to look at when you redeploy as well and when you reintegrate to give managers guidance on how to do that fairly as well.
Cool. Thanks.
That's a follow-up question for you, Emma. In the 15%, when you're talking about violation, to what extent do you try and Elvis it, we call it, and put yourself in the shoes of the person and understand why they violated?
Very much so. What has actually been interesting and has been a real challenge for our business is many of those deliberate violations have been at very senior level. So I know of a route managing director, a maintenance director, and others that have actually had bonuses deducted or performance ratings downgraded, and one has actually left our business because we've took fair to mean fair. And so we've took it to the decision maker, not to the person who undertook the action.
Okay. Another question, please, from the floor. So.
Just a statement. Your shoelaces aren't on there.
Good safety intervention.
Oh,
good intervention.
Thank you.
Yeah, very
please.
Good.
Yes, a round of applause, please, for the obvious Mickey taking of the moderator. Thank you. Okay, well, I put that right. Another question?
Yeah, Mark Wallace with Maersk. You didn't touch on it, but you talked about being a learning organisation. How do you get that learning through to 35,000 employees?
That's a fascinating question, and we've just done something very different last week. We had a fatality in January within our maintenance workforce, and so we decided to do it very differently. And we created a reconstruction in animation of the entire event, even the train driver's footage as he struck the worker. We stood down 20,000 people across 48 hours, and we had safety conversations. So we showed the footage, and we had facilitated safety conversations which said, could that happen on your patch? If you were the investigator, what would you want to ask? What can we learn? What are we going to commit to? I've got workers walking around the railway at the moment with sticky notes that they took away because they took it so personally, they wouldn't leave their commitments behind. What we had to do is we had to gauge them while the organisation was grieving. So 6 weeks after the fatality, we hit it hard. And I have to say, it's been incredibly powerful in learning.
Another question, please.
Paul Jurgensen from Dong E&P. A question for Mark. I really enjoyed your presentation. Fantastic.
Thank you.
I think it's one of the better presentations I've seen on connecting safety and performance. Yeah. But my question to you is have you seen the same performance increase in your business as such, as we're all in here for making money? Yeah. You know, that's part of the stuff we're doing. But it shouldn't be on the stake of killing people or injuring the environment. How has that been on the business wise?
So that's a great question, and I did touch on the fact that one of the unpalatable truths of the Ayrton Senna accident is that the Williams team had a criminal investigation which lasted for 13 years. That was 13 years, that business. Whenever customers did due diligence on the company, there was a pending criminal investigation. That impacted their bottom line very significantly, and we all watched that. I also remember 2 days after the Senna accident being interviewed on CNBC, and the interviewer said to me, is this the end of your business? Is this the end of your industry? Because your industry kills people live on TV. I mean, this isn't a sport, it's unbelievable. And I was kind of defending that. And here's an interesting insight again into human nature. The television audience to Formula One increased over 30% in the races that followed the Senna-Ratzenberger deaths because people want to see accidents, because that's part of the spectacle of our sport. So with those two first points as background to answering your question, We then realized that part of sustainability in terms of commercial sustainability for our business was to make sure that safety was at the center of what we did, even for commercial reasons. There's the human reason, and for the commercial reason, that bottom line, we want customers, and we want customers to have complete faith in our ability to deliver a fantastic spectacle safely. And, you know, I remember having a very difficult meeting with one of the big tobacco companies, and I found it quite amusing that the tobacco sponsor was telling me that my sport was dangerous. And I said to him, well, I'm sure you'd be very happy if you only killed one person a year, but the reality is the perception of that was really damaging our sport. And if you consider against, and again, it's a very unpalatable truth, but the reality is that when Peter Collins, Jochen Rindt, Francois Savert were killed, nobody knew about it after the weekend. Now, there was no rolling news in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. You could bury a bad story. You could cover things up. You could just not report. It's impossible these days. We have 24/7 media culture. And I know from living in the UK, if Emma's organization makes any mistake, it is headline news. The media love jumping on Network Rail because it's such a visceral thing to be hit by a train, and especially when you have two teenage girls killed on a level crossing, which Network Rail knew about. This really hits your reputation, and it definitely hits your bottom line. So we have seen an improvement in our commercial performance because customers have faith in our ability to sustain our business in every dimension, including safety and our reputation, which they live off.
Okay, please, once again, from Mark and Emma. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're off. Thank you.